Hey everybody, it's Designated Video time here on Designated Riders, and we're going to spend some quality time with new Northwestern State head coach Brad Laird. Now, Teddy Allen couldn't be with us today. Maybe it's because we have enough room on this bench here, but we got some questions we want to ask you. Coach Laird, I know you're very excited about taking over as the head coach of the Demons. What's it like? I mean, how do you settle into this job? It's got to be a whirlwind of activity for you, huh?
It's been fun. I tell you, especially now you look at the victory tours that we got, media day, and when you have those, football camp's right around the corner. And but you reflect back on when I guess this all happened in December, and the opportunity to hire staff that to me is second to none as far as the relationships that they're building with these kids and these young men to be the best that we can be, and the administration that we have at Northwestern and the direction that we're going, not just within the football program, the athletic department, and the university as a whole. It's hard not to be excited.
4-7 last year, but the Demons won 3 of the last 4. You got a little momentum. Sometimes I think that's overplayed because there's like 9 months in between, but that is something to build on, I guess, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as you win 3 out of the last 4, you come in with a new coaching staff, a new direction in all 3 phases. That excites you. There's momentum there. But there's no doubt, I think this football team understands what it can do by the way it finished the year. And but it's kind of like preseason ranking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in the past.
Don't mean much,
and it's only dealing with the past. The only thing we can control and focus on is the task at hand. And that's what our guys got to understand is you can't let any outside influences affect the process of being successful. Whether that's preseason rankings, you go back to what happened last year, we can only control the now. And our guys, coaches, and players have done a great job with that.
What's it like being a head coach? And I know you're a head coach at Ruston. We'll talk about it in just a second, but you're the head coach of a college program.
Right. I tell you, if I had to put it in one sentence, I get this from my father, who was in this profession for 40-plus years, so I grew up in it. As the head coach, if you said what excites you the most as far as being the head coach, is the opportunity to directly work with each and every young man. I've been defense coordinator. I've coached on the offensive side of the ball. You deal with just those guys on a day-to-day basis. But the opportunity now to have an influence on each and every one of those young men, because that's what it's about. It's about the relationships. It's about those young men, watching them grow in this program for the next 4 years.
But one of the things I've heard a lot, you've mentioned a lot on your victory tours and things, is the term vision. And I know every head coach wants to come in and have a vision. Mm-hmm. But it seems like that term's been used a lot more with Northwestern and you than other times in the past. So tell us what the Brad Laird vision is.
The vision is to win in everything we do. Why is that important? Because I've said this a lot. I mean, as far as stepping on the field, flip the light switch and decide, hey, it's time to play. You can't do that and be successful long term. So the vision that I have for these young men and these coaches is to win in everything we do. Win as far as the nutrition, the diet that you're on, the amount of sleep that you get at night, being in class on time, being where you're supposed to be on time, doing the right thing each and every day, because that's going to carry over to the X's and O's on the field. If that's the mentality that we bring on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be no different than what we want to do to be successful on the field. And so we're always winning in everything we do, and that's the mindset that we have.
Now, a lot of people think Ruston High School is a university unto itself, but 2 years ago, you were coaching high school football. Now you're coaching college football, and not just low-level assistant. You're the head coach of Northwestern State. 2 years from there to here. How do you make that? How do you walk across that bridge so effortlessly?
Well, the opportunity that I had at Ruston High School, my alma mater, to be able to go back there, not only for 4 years, but 2 years to have the opportunity to work with my dad, was second to none. The opportunity to come to Northwestern State, which I go back to as a little runt running around when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. At that time, not knowing the guys that I was surrounded by, the Joe Delaney's, the Bobby Heberts, the Mark Dupers, those guys that have went on to become successful, not only on the field but off the field. But if you ask me, how is it? And I go back to the kids. I go back to the student athletes. I go back to the young men that we get the opportunity to coach on a daily basis. And that's what it's about, whether it's 15 to 18-year-olds or 18 to 22-year-olds. It's the opportunity to develop those young men to be better when they leave your program than they were when you got there.
1990, I was still working in the newspaper, now the defunct Shreveport Journal, but it was one of my favorite years because I said, and I've said this for a long time, somewhere along the line, the dividing line happened for high school football, which it's done a seismic change. Say that line was 1994 or 95 when it kind of became, quote, national. But before that, 1990 Ruston Bearcats was the best team I ever saw. And I saw a lot of state championship teams. I couldn't wait to go cover y'all. And I remember going down to Nichols or going down to Thibodaux at Nichols Stadium, and I couldn't find a parking place. And that's how great that team was. And I was in the semifinals, and I always tell this story. I remember seeing a guy in the state championship game. The all-state meeting had been the week before, and I was the representative, and I was touting all these Ruston High guys that, oh, no, they should have 5 or 6 guys on the team. And they're all laughing at me like, yeah, JJ, whatever. So I'm just telling y'all, this is the best team I've ever seen. So I don't remember what happened. They recovered an onside kick to start the game, Catholic High.
Went up 3-0.
Yeah. And the writer for the Baton Rouge comes down and says, yeah, JJ, what happened to your Bearcats? And I went, okay, they just put 51 on you straight. It was like that was the worst thing they could do was hack y'all off by scoring 3. That was an unbelievable team, Brad. I mean, the talent on that team. And again, high school football has changed in its focus a little bit, but that was an unbelievable team. I know you had to be proud to be part of that.
And, you know, you reflect back on Chick Childress, who was the head coach, the legendary Chick Childress, and the championships that he won. You know, he goes into that season say, basically, I'm retiring after this season. But when I talk about the relationships and the demands within the program that he had, you know, we had a group growing up that I think everybody looked at that had the opportunity to do that. But we had some guys that signed with University of Auburn. 2 with the University of at LSU. We had Nebraska. Right. I mean, it was guys, but there was never a time where the recruiting part of it was more important than the development of that football team, and that started with Chick Childress.
Yeah, and I got to tell you about Chick. When Chick first got the job at Ruston, I was at Louisiana Tech working for the Ruston Daily Leader, and they sent me to go interview this, I thought was very old man, but nevertheless, he'd come over from Neville, been to Charlie Brown with him, and I watched that first Ruston team that he had, and it was horrible. And in 3 years, it was like Ruston, the James Stadium was filled every time. What a man and what a vision. I guess he built that legacy, it seems like. I know Hoss Garrett too, but Chick Childress is where the modern-day Ruston High School football started. You were a big part of it.
And you know, you go back, because people have asked me this question a lot. What developed this football team was back when we were in junior high, 7th and 8th grade, as we got on buses, whether it was church buses or what, to go to semifinal games and to go to state championships. And we all visioned the opportunity to play for Coach Chick Childress and the opportunity to win championships. So when we got to high school, I mean, there wasn't anything he had to say. I mean, we were all in. And that goes back to what you talked about after them first couple years, and then he started being successful. What he built because of his vision, but more importantly, the relationship that he had with the football players, not only within the program, but what he did from the nature of the school. And built that, you know, as far as it wasn't just about the football team, it was about the overall development of the student athlete.
I remember the first year he moved. I said, who's going to be your starting quarterback? And he said, well, he was our center last year. I said, it's going to sound like it's going to be kind of a tough year there, Coach. All right, you mentioned your dad a little while ago, and Billy's a legendary figure in North Louisiana football. Obviously, you got a special relationship with him, but is that a blessing and a curse sometimes? I mean, or how would you describe being Billy Laird's son?
I tell you, and people have asked me all the time, who has the greatest influence on you as a coach? And I say him, not because I lived in the same house with him for however many years, but he knew X's and O's. There's no doubt. What he knew offensively is way beyond I will ever know. But I learned from him. It's all about the relationships that you build with these young men. But it's also the development within, in his case, whether it was in the universities or it was in the high schools when he won championships at Nashville High School. I mean, he walked in that building, and it just wasn't about the football players. It was about the development of the school. And that's just the nature that his vision that he had to be successful. And, the opportunity to be around the people that I've had to be around and learn from, just like I talked about. When I was a little runt, I mean, the guys that I was surrounded by because of my dad's profession.
Right.
As we move forward, and the guys, the Bobby A. Bears that still have the relationship with me and my mother because of my dad. It's been great for me in the development that I've gone through and being where I am today.
Now, you haven't taken the traditional road to being a head coach at a college. You were out for 2 years, 2 different times you were out of coaching.
Right.
What did you learn during those years in which you weren't blowing the whistle and drawing up X's and O's?
You know, I think things happen for a reason. There's no doubt. The coaching profession is a windy road. And the 2 years I was out, one, I got out of coaching because it was best for my family. I mean, I thought the only thing that existed was football. And that I did not need to be at home, and I learned real quick that wasn't the way to be successful. And so I learned a lot during that process, and then I was at home too much. She said, "Hey, you need to get back in coaching. You're home too much." But second, and I have reflected back on this many a time. Had the opportunity at Northwestern State. Dr. Webb was the president at the time. Mr. Pierce, who's still vice president, gave me the opportunity to get into administration at Northwestern. I was executive director of the NSU Foundation and the Alumni Association. Best for the job that I have now as head football coach at Northwestern State, that may have been one of the best things that prepared me. And here's why. Because I just told you about getting out because of family reasons, because I thought when I got to the office at Northwestern State as defense coordinator, the only thing that existed was those 4 walls I was surrounded by and this football team. I found out real quick when I got into administration, because I was fundraising. I was dealing with different academic departments on campus, helping them fundraise scholarships that had nothing to do with football and nothing to do with X and O's. But here's the one thing I found out, is that everybody at Northwestern State is pulling in the same direction, and they all have the same goal, and that's to move forward. I'm able to translate that not only to our coaches but our players, because I've lived it, I've seen it, I've been there, and it's the greatest feeling I have, knowing when I walk in my office that the support at Northwestern State to move not only the football program but the university forward is second to none.
All right, last question, Brad. It's August 30th. You're standing down there at Kyle Field. You come out, they're coin toss or whatever. What's going to go through your mind?
To defer and kick off.
Well, there you go. Always thinking like a coach, huh?
But I, and I've been asked that. It's whether it's that game or the first home game. Once you leading up to that, there's always the first opportunity to be a head coach. Going to Kyle Field, playing Texas A&M, which is exciting in itself. So leading up to that, there's going to be things that I think about personal. But once you prepare, and once that coin flip happens and that kickoff's made, it's ball.
So you don't think there's a moment in which you'll just take a moment for yourself and absorb and?
Yeah, I mean pregame, I would think, we're going to sit there and have the opportunity as a football team to be very honored, because we get the opportunity to play the game of football.
Yeah.
And that's what our guys, the 70+ that we're going to bring, is going to have the opportunity that night, and that's what they're preparing for now, to be the best that they can be that night.
2 years ago, he was walking the sidelines at James Stadium, which is nothing wrong with that. But the season starts, he'll be walking the sidelines at Kyle Field, one of the storied venues in all of college football. We appreciate Brad Laird for spending quality time with us here on Designated Riders.
Appreciate it.
And best of luck to the Northwestern Demons.